So, Joe, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are in the playoffs, and they are the 7 seed. They go up against the Indiana Hoosiers. So weird to say. The battle of the state of Indiana is on the line here. But as we continue on our path for teams that we see that can make it to a national title or win a national title, your team here, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, how do you see them getting to and winning a national title if they so dare?
I just know as I'm saying this, you're going to push back. But Notre Dame was given the best path for them. Not saying the best path overall, but the best path for them to reach the national championship.
Yeah, if they would have got the 6th seed, it would have been the best path. If they would have been where Penn State is, it would have been the best path.
It would have.
They would have gotten the same exact place that where they probably get to. But
yeah, and they wanted that. They obviously wanted that 6th seed. They wanted the 5 seed. But what I'm saying is that where they are on the side of the bracket, it's not like the cut and dry 100% best path. But where they are on this side of the bracket, I'm going to talk about the fact that theoretically they're going to have to face off with Georgia after Georgia's been off for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They have the opportunity going up against a very green quarterback that we lauded and we think can have a big game. But the nightmare side of that is young quarterback, inexperienced quarterback, not necessarily young because he's been around for a while, but inexperienced quarterback who succumbs to the pressure of Notre Dame's defensive line. That is a winnable outcome. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed win that Notre Dame guarantees to win that football game, but it is a winnable outcome if Notre Dame plays and can be as effective as Georgia Tech's rushing attack was. That is their path to success because they are better at running the football than Georgia Tech is. They're more consistent. They've got more running backs that they can turn to. They've got just a little bit more juice that can help them get over the edge in a game like that against Georgia. And then being able to square off with Penn State, no matter when it would have been, is obviously far more favorable than if they had to take on Texas or Oregon at some point in this playoff field. Penn State is also beatable, depending on how Notre Dame's run defense plays, which can be very, very good. And we know that James Franklin is the king of failing to step up against top 5, top 10 teams. So Notre Dame is placed in this spot here where it all comes down to how do they play against Georgia. They obviously need to beat Indiana first, and we got to focus on Indiana before we jump ahead to anything else. But the ability to get Georgia without Carson Beck, and if Gunnar Stockton does not step up to the challenge as effectively as maybe Georgia fans are hoping, that is where they get past them, and then they should be able to beat Penn State if they play their best defense. Oh, man, what are you going to say here?
I just am going to continue week in, week out, day in, day out, game in, game out. Say the same exact thing. It's not just you in saying this. I've heard others say this too. I've heard Notre Dame people and media say, well, look at Georgia Tech versus Georgia. And I say to that, okay, that is something, and you're right. You can't ignore it. But then I also see people talking about how rivalry week needs to be curved on or looked at on a curve because rival versus rival goofy things happen. I don't know how to maintain that. What I do maintain is there is going to be situations in these games. I think maybe not so much against Indiana. I think Notre Dame can just roll in there, out physical them, push them around, and do what they need to do. Even though Ohio State had issues with that, I think Notre Dame still can go in there and do that. Now you're getting to a place in the season, Joe, where let me ask you a God's honest question. I'm not trying to troll. Where have you been in a situation against a top premier team, a top 15 to 20 team, where you've seen Riley Leonard throw the football when he needs to?
That's obviously not happened.
Okay.
It's obviously not happened.
So why does it come off from Notre Dame fans in the comments when I say that I don't know if you're able to do that? Why do people hate me for saying that? Why?
It's a fair criticism to bring up, and it's something that could arise. Obviously, could arise in the playoff, especially against.
It's going to arise against Georgia. Let's call it
right. Okay. Georgia Tech didn't need to call on Haynes King to make those big passing plays. They didn't need to. They did convert in some areas, but they didn't need to call on him because they were having such success of generating big splash plays in the run game. So why I'm saying this and why I think a lot of Notre Dame fans push back on you when you bring that up is that it's not their bread and butter. It needs to be, it's a situation that they ultimately need to avoid, that I feel. That if you're executing and you're running the ball as effectively as you can, and you're not getting overly cute with it like they have done in some very short spurts that has led to turnovers in the passing game, when they're able to generate on the ground the way that they play at their best, they can run on a team like Georgia. But it all comes down to, Blake, the mentality that they show up with and the intensity that they show up with and how they start on the opening drive. That's why I'm not sitting here saying that Notre Dame beats Georgia, cut and dry, boom, done. They're my pick to win the national championship, blah, blah, blah. I am just saying this to say that in this matchup, if Georgia wins, we explained how they win. If Notre Dame were to win, the way that they win is that they have a really successful first drive running the football, and it starts to grind down Georgia, and then they start to accumulate just bigger and bigger plays. This is not that same. Hold on one second. It's not that same Georgia defense that we're used to seeing. I'm bringing up these games during their season and the Georgia Tech game as evidence that Georgia can get run on. Like, that's important context to bring up here.
Disagreeing with that. But I see y'all keep talking about the Georgia Tech game as if Haynes King not being there is not a massive situation.
Riley Leonard is the same quality of quarterback as Haynes King is.
Are you outside of your mind?
Dude, you can't. Wait, no, stop. You think that Haynes King's better than Riley Leonard? No, come on, man.
No. What I think is I've seen you guys looking at, well, we beat the dog shit out of Georgia Tech, and Haynes King wasn't there, but Georgia had to go into overtime. And then you thinking Haynes King not being in that game against Notre Dame is not a massive deal.
Wait. I didn't bring up that game. That game's not part of the discussion. That didn't. I'm talking about.
You're the one that brought up Georgia Tech.
No, I brought up Georgia Tech versus Georgia. I'm not talking about Notre Dame versus Georgia Tech.
Any Twitter response.
Okay, but I am not some Neanderthal on Twitter. You and I are talking about this matchup. Don't bring up that game. That has nothing to do with it.
Okay, fine. I won't bring up that game. Here's the truth. I have no clue if you can throw. I don't see a path for you right now to win it. I don't. Because
well, the point of this segment is to illustrate that.
Okay. Well, here would be the reason that you did. That Riley Leonard proved all of us wrong, and on crucial third downs, he threw the football effectively and hit guys that were open. That's it.
All right, that's fair.
That is it. I don't know. I got to be real with you. I don't think your secondary's been tested. I really, 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 really don't.
USC is one of the best receiving corps in the country against one of the
top receiver was out, was he not? Lemon had to come in and go off. And then if
Zachariah Branch played and Deuce Robinson played in that game.
But the Hudson
and Kyron Hudson played in that game too.
Okay, all right. So how many yards did they throw in that game?
They threw for over 300, but as we talked about in that recap, the fourth quarter, there were a ton of garbage time passing yards because Notre Dame was up so big that they threw on every single down.
So the 3 quarters that he got no quarters and he got no yards in 3 quarters. He didn't throw for 3 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters.
They still
did he or did he not? Was it a 7-point game or was it not? Was it a 7-point game in the fourth quarter? Yes or no?
They still generated interceptions on some of those drives, but
yes or no? Did he throw for 3 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters?
I don't actually remember the stats off the top of my head, so I'm not going to say yes or no to that.
He had 5 total touchdowns. He ran for 2 on you too. So basically what I'm hearing is the best offense that you saw in USC, you got thrown all over.
I wouldn't consider that thrown all over.
Joe, if every team in this playoff bracket, Arizona State, Boise State, and Notre Dame are the most untested week in and week out from their schedule. You can think that I'm trolling. I'm not trolling you. What I'm telling you is if Riley Leonard is not able to throw the ball on third down, you're not going to get where you want to go. And here's another thing. Third down offensive efficiency has been dog water. It's been dog water.
Yeah, it's been an issue for them, and I won't disagree with that. But where I disagree is the way that you're framing it is that Riley Leonard has to be perfect. You're making it seem that Riley Leonard has to be perfect on third down in these situations. If Notre Dame plays,
Quinn Ewers had to, and when he couldn't, they got beat.
Texas can't run the ball the way that Notre Dame can. They can't. They haven't been able to do it all season long.
Who are they running the ball against?
Who is Texas running the ball against? The times that they've been challenged by opposing rush attacks.
I asked you about Notre Dame. You got a lot of confidence in a running game that has not been fully tested about a defense that's as good as Georgia. You're right. They're not as good as they used to be. You're right. They're not.
We can't say that as good as Georgia when they are a great defense, but they have given up some big plays.
Name a team better than Georgia that you faced.
Obviously, we haven't faced anyone as good as Georgia, but Georgia's not
remotely in the same stratosphere as them.
Georgia is not impenetrable. It's on film.
Dude, I'm going to tell y'all this every week. You think I'm trolling. I swear to God, I'm not. You're going to get your ass busted. You're going to get your ass busted.
See, this is my problem with this, though, is that, like, I think that Georgia probably beats Notre Dame, but to be as hyperbolic as to say that Notre Dame gets their ass kicked, I don't disagree with that. Georgia has shown.
I said you're going to get your ass busted.
That's the same thing.
No, it's not. You better learn Southern lingo. Joe, again, in all seriousness here, and I don't think that I have no faith in Riley Leonard on 3rd and 7 can complete a pass against a Georgia secondary.
That's why that their path to success is them winning on the ground.
Do you think Georgia's not going to do things to take that away?
Do you think that they knew that coming into the Georgia Tech game? They couldn't stop it.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll tell you the truth. I think Haynes King is more physical than Riley Leonard.
I don't agree with that at all. Okay. Riley Leonard throws his whole body
and Haynes King doesn't.
Riley Leonard does it more than Haynes King does. There's a concern that Riley Leonard is going to get himself hurt. It happens every single week that people are saying that, like, damn, Riley Leonard might knock himself out of this game because he looks like a crash dummy.
I don't think you can get past Georgia. I know we're talking about paths here. I can't see it, buddy. I can't.
The one team that you share that you don't think that the whole point of the segment is how do you win a national title, and that.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.